call our meeting to order tonight. Roll call, please, Renata.
Eddinger,
Here.
McEvers,
Here.
Guggen,
Yes.
Miller,
Here.
English,
Here.
Evans.
Here.
And I do not see our pastor here tonight, unless there's a different pastor in the audience. So if we'll rise and we'll go to the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Don't believe we have any amendments to the agenda tonight, so we'll move on to our presentation, and we're going to be giving something away tonight, which is pretty exciting. So we have our CDA TV Survey Award, and we have Melanie from the CDA TV Committee. She's the chair of that committee, and she is going to tell us about the survey, and Woody is going to pick the grand prize winner. We're all really excited about this.
Thank you. Like he said, I'm Melanie Collette. Thank you, Mayor and members of the council, for having me here tonight. I am the Public Information Officer at Panhandle Health District, but also the chair of the CDA TV Committee. And recently, our committee sought the community's input on the CDA TV programming. We really wanted to learn more about our viewers and how we can better serve the community. So we're still reviewing and analyzing some of the results, but I did want to give you a few highlights. One trend, major trend that we saw was related to online access. Of the 244 residents that took the survey, we saw that 78% watch TV through the internet or streaming devices. And when asked specifically about how viewers prefer to watch public meetings and forums, such as tonight's meeting, 51% said that they prefer to watch via internet or Facebook. And on another note, 88% of people said that having access to local community television is moderately or very important to them. And I know that I see so much value, and I'm happy to see that the community also sees value in public television. And to encourage participation, Bunkhouse Media did donate this great iPad for one lucky participant. And we have a list of a bucket of all the names. Participants of the survey had the option to include their contact information for winning the iPad.
Wait, before we do
So-
that, let me keep you in suspense, because this is what they do on real TV.
Oh, need a little drum roll.
I just want to ask a question.
Yes.
You gave us some stats there. I want some demographics. So who were the participants of the survey?
Most of the participants were 26 to 50 years old and in the 83815 zip code. And like I said, SurveyMonkey, which is the tool that we used, allows you to break it down further than that. So we'd be able to see, all right, the people that said they want to watch via internet and Facebook, let's see the ages that answered that. And we are still doing that because the survey just ended on Friday, actually. So our committee won't meet again for until next month.
So it follows that 80% of people who already use the internet would already use the internet to watch TV. In other words, my question in the big picture is did you make any efforts to reach out to people who aren't as internet savvy?
Well,
I know that should have been handled at the committee level, but we know people who are on the internet who are very active, who understand what SurveyMonkey is and how to use the website, are probably the same type of people who naturally would use a streaming media or Facebook or social media to watch this. So in other words, it's this focus here is online active people already, but is that the desire of the committee to reach out beyond that and maybe get more people who say would traditionally have watched the meetings on Time Warner or whatever, whoever owns them now, Spectrum, to have them, people who just have TV?
absolutely. This was a preliminary survey, and we have talked as a committee about even sending out with like your electric bill, the survey, so that we could
Cool.
have it by zip code. But this was the best way for us at this point to get a clear vision of our viewership. And really that technology trend, we made an assumption that more people are watching online and more people are using the internet to view television. But this was now data showing that. We were no longer making an assumption and just trying
So it
to.
confirmed what you thought, yeah.
Yes.
Good.
So,
And Melanie actually did a great little commercial on CDA TV as well. So our viewers had the opportunity to see the commercial and the link for the survey on the actual television channel as well.
What fun.
yes, but the survey was only offered online.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. Just a question. And also just to delay, because all those people who are sitting there looking at their coupons right now, wanting to see who won, we're keeping them in suspense.
I know,
They're like,
yeah.
shut up, Gookin, draw it, what do you?
Okay.
Was that a second?
Yeah. Oh, no, we got lose some. It's okay, everybody gets an even chance.
It just slipped.
All right, and our lucky winner is Diana Jackson.
Congratulations,
So we will
Diana.
go ahead and notify her of her prize, the iPad donated by Bunkhouse Media, and we'll arrange for her to collect it. Thank you so much for having me here tonight, and happy Thanksgiving.
Great,
Thank you, Melanie.
thank you very much.
We need to give away more stuff. That was fun.
Okay, well, let's move on to the consent calendar.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move for approval of consent calendar as presented, including Resolution 17-070.
A motion, we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I just had a comment or a question. One of the items that's on the consent calendar is a quitclaim of the blue building. Is that true? Is that still on there? Yeah, so, and I emailed, yeah, there it is, number 9B. So I emailed our city attorney, Mr. Gridley, and asked him about that, because it had not appeared anywhere, and I'm pretty sure everyone's familiar with, you drive down Northwest Boulevard, you got the Memorial Field project, or Four Corners Phase 2, whatever it's called, and then up on the other side of River, there's this big ugly blue building that I guess the museum was using, and now they can't, if I understand it, because our agreement with the BLM, a private entity cannot be leasing or owning any property on that location, so they're moved out of there, we're going to take it over, and we don't really have any future plans at this point for it. Is that a good summary?
I think that's a great summary. That's
thank you.
pretty much nailed it, yeah. The museum bought the building in 1993 and used it for storage. They've subleased some of it to NIC. The building sits on land that is owned by the federal government, but was controlled by BNSF Railroad while they were operating a railroad. BNSF leased it to the museum. That has all gone away, and now it's owned by BLM, the federal government, and it's an encroachment on federal property. And so we worked with the museum over the past couple years to orchestrate their departure from that or help them. So right now, the city is storing some office equipment and other things from our remodel. Once that's done, then it'll be an empty building, and then it will be, as we go forward with, I guess, the city's redevelopment plans along the corridor, the lease corridor, it will either be demolished or something will be done with it.
Excellent, thank you so much.
Woody?
Along those same lines, Michael, I noticed that we're giving a beer and wine license to a bicycle store. Is there something I'm missing somewhere? Are bicycle stores now becoming places where you can have beer and wine?
I guess somebody said you can go to Fred Meyer and drink beer while you're shopping,
Oh, I
so
guess
I don't know.
that's-
No way.
Is this a new trend? I just wanted to kind of point it out. This is pretty exciting, I think.
I think
Can
I
you
saw
drink?
one for a haircut and a beer for something, so.
Okay, I just noticed that, so I'm going to keep my eyes
One new
open.
layer of how we
Another layer of
dispense
getting
liquor
through
in
the winter in Idaho.
One new layer.
I don't know, Mike, if Woody was getting at because he knows you're a bike rider, if he was insinuating something there. I'm not
I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah.
That is cool.
Any other questions? Roll call, please, Renata.
Miller,
Sure.
McEvers,
Well, for a beer, yeah.
Gookin,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Eddinger,
Yep.
Evans.
Yes.
Motion carried. Now is the time for public comment. Anyone wishing to address the council should have 3 minutes to do so on city business. We do have a couple of public hearings that are going to come on later in the agenda, of which folks that would wish to talk specifically on that topic will have an opportunity to do so. Would just be for general public comment. Anyone that would have a comment in the audience? If not, we will move forward to announcements. Any member of the council have an announcement? Kiki?
I have a few. I wanted to let rest of council and the public know that the Performing Arts Center Advisory Subcommittee, which is part of the CDA 2030 Implementation Committee, met and reviewed 11 proposals that were submitted in response to an RFP for a Performing Arts and Events Center feasibility study to be done. So those submissions are under review, and the plan is that there will be a consultant team recommended to Ignite, who is funding the study, at their December 20th board meeting. And if that is approved, contract negotiations will start, and hopefully there will be someone on board by the beginning of the year. And additional information and next steps about that will be available after that committee's selected. Then I had another one. Yesterday, I thought this was pretty neat, so indulge me for sharing. We kind of tend to hear about trees after the fact and when they're in jeopardy, but yesterday at the Park and Rec Commission meeting, Kootenai Health was presented a Landscape of Excellence Award by Community Canopy, which is a local tree care education program that the Park and Rec group is part of. And that was because during the Ironwood Drive widening program, Kootenai Health worked with the City of Coeur d'Alene, ITD, Cameron Riley, and Bartell tree care experts to make site plan modifications. Now, to me, once an engineer's drawn a plan and you get that many organizations to agree on an after-the-fact modification, that's saying something in itself. But they were able to preserve 9 mature London plane trees, which are really, really big and will really beautify that corridor. So that was really good cooperative work. So I was proud of that. And my last thing is that the Atlas Waterfront Project has been updated on the City of Coeur d'Alene website. There's an activity log there so that anyone can go and see what the current steps are and forward momentum on that project is going to be. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you. Any other member of the council have an announcement tonight? Okay, we will move on to other business, and then we will have a discussion of the subcommittee structure. I asked Renata to work on this, basically to give council an opportunity to give some input on the General Services and Public Works Committee. These are your meetings, and I thought it was time to have a discussion on if you wish to modify them, change them, eliminate them, do nothing, whatever you would like to do. So I'll hand it off to Renata.
Summarized better than I could. I really wanted to just provide this as an opportunity for full council to have a discussion amongst themselves and basically hear what each other is thinking. And we've just had this come up occasionally about what to do with subcommittees when there's only 2 people available, or if there's no items at General Services, we cancel it and everything goes to Public Works if another item comes forward. So this is for your opportunity to discuss what you guys are thinking about the General Services and Public Works subcommittees specifically.
Okay. Dan?
Sure. Just, first off, I think that it's important to have some kind of a committee structure. I think it's good that, we take a first look at it, and sometimes that's the first time that the public is aware of something coming up, and so just because of the coverage at a committee level, something can come to light, so I think that's good. When I kind of read about this and heard, I think from the mayor a little bit of the concept, my first impression, and still my impression, is I really like this idea of combining the two, and then we, trade off meetings. You've also then got a little bigger bench if you need a sub, and I think what I especially like is to, you're either on one committee or another, and generally, you kind of get one group of things that you're more knowledgeable about, and I like the idea to kind of be exposed to everything potentially, so not just the stuff below the ground, but the other stuff too. So anyway, I think that's a good idea to combine them and alternate, so.
Ron?
Yeah, my suggestion is to leave it as is.
That's always an option.
Okay, on either end of the,
Woody?
So I was interested in the history of this, Ron, and you obviously go back, and I'm not sure if, Dan, was that going on back in your day? Were they doing committees?
of some kind, but I can't remember exactly how.
It happens, huh?
So.
Yeah. How about you, Ron? What do you remember? Why, was it always committees, or did it evolve? Was there a purpose behind it? Do you recall?
No, I don't think there was any purpose. I think that the mayor would appoint the 3 council people to a committee, and then with the 3, they appoint a chairman, or the mayor would appoint a chairman of the committees. But I think that, basically, I think it's worked fine.
Okay. Dan?
Oh, were you done?
Well,
I'm sorry.
no, I was going to ask Renata, what's your take on the history of these things and the purpose and the reason we do it? Not all municipalities do this type of thing. What's your remembrance?
Well, as I looked back through some of the council meeting minutes, that was referenced as far back as the 1970s, so it's something that's been ongoing for quite a long time. My understanding of why it was established was to help sort of narrow down that workload at the council meetings, so that some of that discussion can happen at the subcommittee level. And if you needed the staff to go back and research more, you could send the subject back at that point, rather than it being at a council meeting. It allows for you to bring things forward through the consent calendar, and once it goes to consent calendar, then you have less staff that have to come in the evening to represent those items. So it was sort of a workflow issue. But Ron could maybe speak to more of why, but that's my understanding so far.
Dan?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I met with Jim Fromm, who was a former mayor a long time ago, and he claims credit for creating them, primarily to save time at the council meetings, because the council meetings were going on too long. And therefore, he decided to split up some of the more routine business items into subcommittees to save time, and he says it worked. So that's my recollection of where they came from. So the time frame is right, the 70s. I think Mayor Fromm was mayor in the late 70s. The time frame's right. You served with him when he was on council. Actually, you were the mayor when Jim Fromm was on council.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that was what he said. I think, and of course I've said this before, I think we should just eliminate them because if you look at the time spent, General Services Committee, subcommittees typically last 15 minutes. Public Works, sometimes we get into a longer meeting that may last half an hour, but usually when it goes that long, it's an item that we're going to put on the calendar or on the agenda anyway. So it's kind of like, all right, so we spent a half an hour here, now we're going to spend another half an hour at the meeting. If you just add the time that's spent on those meetings, and they meet twice a month, and they don't often meet all the time. So sometimes there's, a year, and there may be half the time the subcommittee will meet. And if you add up all that time and just stick it on the regular council meeting, then it doesn't really extend the meetings, I think, that long. So I don't know what was happening in the late 70s that caused them to have these committee meetings to handle more business. But it doesn't really save us any time because we're still all have to be here. And, if they extend it, I don't think we've had a meeting last past 8:30 in the past few years. So to me, it would be like, okay, let's just do it during regular council meetings, and that way we all don't have to show up every other Monday to go to another meeting. So you get it all handled at once. I do like what Renata said, which is that it does give a chance for items to be vetted. So you can have, half the council, and if all of a sudden you discover 2 or a third of the council doesn't particularly like an idea or has a better suggestion, then it can go back, and then it doesn't take up. But you can do that at a meeting too. I mean, we've done that at meetings where we've sent things back. So that's just how I feel. I know that Ron likes the meetings, and Dan said some good things too. But that's kind of my feeling is, we're getting paid to do the job, and we're here until the job is done in the evening. And I think a lot of things, especially the consent item things, I mean, you saw the quitclaim item tonight. I was at the wastewater treatment plant today to review RFQs for an engineer, and that item is going to come to Public Works on our first meeting in December. And since it's a budgeted item, we've already have the money allocated for it, and all they did was select an engineer. They're going to do a presentation to us. So it's going to take about 5-10 minutes, giving questions afterwards. Then it's going to go on the consent calendar. But it's something that's kind of already going to happen because they could do the same thing at a regular meeting. Here's the guys, they're all qualified. This is the one we chose for this reason or the other. It's either 10 minutes on a Monday at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, or it's 10 minutes on a Tuesday at 6:30. So my opinion is get rid of them.
So we have a variety of opinions, so Amy would look forward to yours.
Well,
Agree with
I'm,
me 100%.
I don't think so.
I'm very comfortable remaining how is. I don't feel that our committee meetings are broken. I think we have a lot of flexibility in moving agenda items to one meeting to the other if for some reasons somebody's out of town or ill. And so that gives us a little touch in each area of the city. I also, more importantly, think it's a opportunity to inform the community of what's coming forward to council and giving the community an opportunity to hear about it before it actually comes to the meeting, so they can put some thoughts together to reach out to any of us. So first and foremost, that would be my number one reason to keep it the same. I also feel like it allows staff an opportunity to become even more prepared to come to council. At General Services and Public Works, we're often able to ask them questions or even give them suggestions to strengthen their PowerPoint or their presentation before it comes to council. I think there's a lot of benefits for that. So those are my thoughts.
Okay, so far we have 2 leave the same, 1 consolidate, and 1 eliminate. So we have 2 others that should weigh in on where they would like to sit.
I just have 2 things. One is I'd go with leaving it the way it is, and my reasons are because of the community being able to see what's coming up on the agenda, but also for myself, to be able to have a chance to delve into each of those items on the committee level, where if I got them all on the Thursday before a council meeting, I agree with Dan that our time spent at council might be the same amount of time, but trying to get everything that I need to get researched before close of day, when sometimes I only have 1 day to contact staff, it just would add to that load. So for me, it splits it up, where I can do the due diligence on those items more effectively. But the other question I had about this piece that I wanted to clear up is that we now are under a program where annually, I think we're going to agree on what items are deemed regular to be put onto the consent calendar. And I'm not certain where we changed the automatic cancellation of a committee meeting if there was one person not there. So those 2 things, while we're talking about this, I wanted to clear up, but I'd go with staying with the current programs.
So Renata, to Kiki's question, in canceling meeting because of absences, maybe what protocol we follow there?
In discussion with the committee chairs, Woody and Ron, it was discussed that oftentimes when there's only 2 council persons there, they are not comfortable rolling items to consent. So all those items that are on those subcommittee agendas get rolled to council anyway. So it just seemed more efficient to cancel those meetings when there's only 2 and roll those items directly to council or to the other subcommittee if there's full 3 members.
Okay, does that help?
Yep.
Kiki? Okay, Wood?
Well, I've been doing it ever since I was here, so I think what I've realized is thinking about not doing it was your perspective on what goes on in the city. I've been on Public Works, so I'm a in the dirt guy. I'm the streets and the plumbing and the water and the sewer and stormwater and everything that happens in the dirt or under the dirt. And I find it fascinating, spend time in the water department and the streets, and you go out with the guys. And, again, that may just be my approach to being a council guy, get involved, try and learn things. It's not like you become an expert, but as you say, you kind of analyze things and you ask questions about process and stuff. And I enjoy that. I would miss that part of getting to know the sewer guy and the water guy and spend time with them and pick at them a little and make their presentations better and their PowerPoints better. And, engineers are going to get to color maps someday, instead of those stick drawings. And the north is always going to be up. But that's where my passion is that I find it interesting. I'm glad somebody else is taking care of police and fire and all the weird things that General Services does. At least everything that grew up on is in the ground, and I find that it's blue collar, it's my kind of guys. So I'm fine with it the way it is. I get the timing thing. I totally understand that, but again, it's about before you get there, you at least read everything and try and get some good questions out of it. So I can go along with it. I'm fine. I would like to kind of understand the reason. Are we trying to save time, or Mayor, maybe your perspective on it?
Well, I think that there's a variety of reasons why we do it. It is to save some time. I don't think it saves a lot of time, but Amy made a point of the staff getting a chance to get up and make the presentations, and if they have to make the presentation again at council, they feel more comfortable making that presentation, and it's a good tool to have. But like I said, these are your meetings. I want to make sure that we are as respectful of your guys' time as possible. If you guys are good at leaving it the same that it is, that's the direction that we'll go in.
So Dan, do you want to move over to General Services so you won't interrupt our Public Works meetings by not being there?
So Public Works will now last 15 minutes, and General Services will go on for half an hour.
I'll trade places with you.
Oh, we learned stuff, right?
I'll let you guys arm wrestle over it. Okay, so we're just going to move ahead with the same status of the meetings that we have now. Well, thank you, everyone, for your input on that. We'll move now to the acceptance of canvassed election results. Renata, is that you again?
Sure, this is just one of those legally required items that after the election, we need to accept the canvass of the vote.
Well, Mr. Mayor, it wasn't my election, so I will make the motion to accept the canvassed election results as presented by Kootenai County, and the results be reflected in the minutes of this meeting.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. We have two public hearings tonight. The first public hearing is a quasi-judicial hearing. And is there any conflicts of interest of any member of the staff on the first quasi-judicial hearing? This is the applicant is Welsh Comer. Location is south of vacated Garden Avenue, east of Park Drive. Requested proposed zone change from R3 residential at 3 units per acre to city R8 residential at 8 units per acre zoning district. Any conflicts from anyone? No conflict seen. There's a sign-up sheet for people to testify, and we will move to our staff report. Mike?
Good evening, Mayor, Council. This is a public hearing for item ZZ-3-17, application by Ignite CDA represented by Welch Comer requesting a zone change from R3 to R8 zoning district on property located immediately northeast of the intersection of Park Drive and Garden Avenue. Legal notice was published in the Coeur d'Alene Press on November 4th, 2017, and all other required notifications have been made. You can see the property located right here in red. This is Northwest Boulevard. This is NIC campus. This is Memorial Field. Here's a close-up aerial photograph. It's highlighted here in red. Here's a bird's eye view looking north. Property's outlined in yellow. This is Memorial Field. This is Northwest Boulevard. This is a bird's eye view looking west. So the property's highlighted here in yellow. This is the applicant's exhibit showing the proposed zone change here highlighted in yellow. If the zone change is approved, the applicant is going to go ahead and move forward with a 10-lot subdivision The subdivision will have rear alley access, similar to the surrounding neighborhood. There are 4 findings that must be met in order for a zone change to be approved. The first finding is finding B88, that this proposal is or is not in conformance with the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan indicates this area in the educational corridor. However, it fits more in the historic heart area. This area is established neighborhoods with alley lots, grid-type system. It's been stable established. And the comprehensive plan objective as it relates to this zone change is this slide. There's the full list is on page 8 of your staff report. Objective 1.12, community design, support the enhancement of existing urbanized areas and discourage sprawl. Objective 1.14, efficiency. Objective 3.05, protect and preserve existing neighborhoods from incompatible land uses and developments. Finding B9, that the public facilities and utilities are or are not available and adequate for the proposed use. This application has been routed through the city departments, and each department has indicated that there are adequate public facilities and public utilities available to serve the proposed request. Finding B10, that the physical characteristics of the site do or do not make it suitable for the request at this time. The site is generally flat, and there are no topographical or physical constraints that would make the subject property unsuitable from changing the zoning from R3 to R8. Here's a topographic map indicating the relative flatness of the property. And the next 5 slides are site photos. This is on the north side looking south. This is across Park Drive looking east. This is on the south side looking north. This is on the east side looking west. And this is on the northeast corner looking east. Finding B11, that the proposal would or would not adversely affect the surrounding neighborhood with regard to traffic, neighborhood character, and/or existing land uses. The city engineer has indicated that Park Drive has the availability capacity to accommodate additional traffic generated from the subject site. Here's the existing zoning map showing the R8 zoning to the north. To the east and to the south is R3. And to the west is R8 with a special use single-family designation. So only single-family residents on this part of the property. The proposed R8 zoning district is intended as a residential area that permits a mixed use of housing types at a density not greater than 8 units per acre. This is a list of the principal uses that are permitted in the R8 district. It's administrative, duplex housing, neighborhood recreational, public recreational, and single-family detached housing. The applicant has indicated that they intend to only have single-family detached housing on this property. They intend to put it on their final plat as a designation, so only single-family at the site. So duplex housing would not be allowed if this is approved. Here's a zone change map of the area, and in 1989 and 1991, there was a zone change from R12 to R17, and then in 2002, commercial zone change in this area. Here's an existing land use map showing the civic use to the east and to the south. To the north is vacant, and to the west is single-family housing. There's one proposed condition, is that the final plat shall include a designation to single-family detached housing only. And the decision point is to provide a decision regarding the proposed zoning change from R3 to R8 on approximately 0.4 acres. You'll need to consider this request and make appropriate findings to approve, deny, or deny without prejudice. That concludes my presentation. I'm available to answer any questions, and the applicant's engineer is also here to make a brief presentation as well.
Questions for Mike? Woody?
Mike, so go back, so this is just for that corner, just for that dirt on the curve,
Just for the property outlined in red.
and it was a park, and now it's going to be homes.
That's correct.
And how do we justify that? Or how do you?
It's not his job.
Well, but they did a land swap with Ignite CDA, and so they've got some land. If I go back to a larger picture, a land swap was approved by city council that swapped land to get more park area. So there's a land swap for this area, and that was concluded and conducted. And the R8 zoning will be single-family houses only, which will be compatible with the adjoining neighborhoods.
So land swap, same as dollar value. right?
I'm not for sure on the, I guess refer to our attorney on that.
But that's the theory behind it.
Yes.
Okay.
Did you get your question answered?
I'm
Wood?
good.
Okay. Other questions for Mike? Dan?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mike, explain to me what the difference is between having a Zone R8 single-family and single-family stipulated on the plat.
Well, the R8 zoning with the designation with the SF is it requires, the first, the R8 zoning, then you'll have to apply for a special use permit just to get the designation for single-family only. But if you get a plat recorded, you could record certain items on there, certain things that you would like that would restrict the building on those lots. So if a person bought that lot, they would know that according to that plat, it's only restricted to single-family dwellings.
So, and the concern here is, it doesn't, the neighborhood banned the duplexes, except for what was grandfathered in. So the concern from the neighborhood would be that these lots would be combined, and then someone would build an apartment complex or build a duplex. This restriction on the plat prevents that.
That is correct.
Could someone still buy 2 lots and build a larger house?
They could not. They would have to go through a process, and that process would not allow it without the other people being involved.
Okay. Is there anything that can undo this?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
I have a follow-up question to yours. So, but we would need to place a condition on the approval?
That's correct.
Okay,
That's
for the
one
single
condition.
family?
Yep.
Okay.
Any other questions for Mike? We may have questions later.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
See, we were on the same page.
We get there occasionally.
Good evening, Council, Mr. Mayor, Council.
And
Phil
you
Boyd.
are?
So we'll have you sworn in.
Do you swear that the testimony you are about to give will be the whole truth and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
I do. Phil Boyd, 350 East Kathleen, Welch-Comer Engineers. I'm going to answer a few of the questions that were presented here, but first I'm going to go back a little bit to give you guys some context. This is the project area. Mike's already shown a good picture of that. And this goes back to November of 2015. And you might remember when we did the Four Corners Master Plan, the odd configuration of our park. And the reason that was that odd configuration was because Ignite had that property, but it wasn't in play, so to speak. And you can see specifically the skate park kind of had an odd shape. And that was the Ignite property, or is the Ignite property. That was the first project out of the chute, was the parking lot and the realignment of now Fort Grounds Drive. You can see this was taken in the summer with all the smoke. Somewhere around the spring of 2016, Mayor Widmeyer had the idea that the city and county could do a joint parking lot that would serve both the community on the weekends and in the evenings, and serve the county during the day with their parking issues. So that project started to move along, and at that time, the city circled back to Ignite and said, gee, would you consider putting that parcel in play? Because if you did, it would allow us to make our park a little more uniform, and Bill Greenwood was involved in that process. So Ignite said, sure, we'll be interested in that, but we still want to be able to recover our value for the property that we have. And so would the city consider a land trade for some of their park property? And that was the origin of that idea. So this project moved forward, went through the county commissioners, and you are all aware that that agreement was cemented and the project's under construction. So this is what shows the land swap, and you can see those triangles there. This is the triangle piece that was once going to be some sort of development and now will be park. And this was kind of an unused portion of the existing park that was proposed for development, but the zone was the incorrect zone. You can see here's an aerial photograph as well that shows the existing lots that were platted, and then the Ignite triangle here. Mike's already shown you the zoning, so I won't talk about that. So as we moved through that process, it was important to both the city and Ignite that it be vetted through public discourse. And so this is just kind of a list of the meetings. You guys have seen this in front of you before. When we did the land trade, we've been in front of the county commissioners, we've been to the Fort Brown Homeowners Association. And one of the themes that was consistent through there is we want that area to be similar to the Fort Grounds. I think that was consistent across the city council as well as the Fort Brown homeowners. And so the idea was to make smaller lots. And there were two options considered in this land trade. The green was Ignite, and these blue were the city. And this was another option that was considered. As Bill Greenwood kind of thought through what made sense for the park, what Ignite thought through, and what made sense for them from an economic standpoint, this was the ultimate option that was selected. You might remember there was a vacation of Garden Avenue, and then the subsequent land swap. And as we move through all those steps, we're ultimately here to the zone change, so those lots will be consistent with the Fort Brown homeowners, or with the Fort Brown neighborhood. And that's where we're at. That's kind of the final park rendering. You see that under construction now. And this is what the plat would look like. A couple of comments about lots being consolidated. There was another comment that we heard. Duplexes was another comment that we heard. One of the ways that we're going to prevent lot consolidation is through building envelopes. So on the plat, we'll actually have designated building envelopes that also gave us opportunity to preserve some trees. And you can see these kind of green stars in here where there's some really fantastic trees. It doesn't stop somebody from cutting a tree down on their property, it's their tree, but you certainly aren't going to encourage it by allowing a building envelope to be there. So I think most reasonable people would say, well, I can't put my house there, so I won't cut the tree down. So that's a little bit of the background. Hopefully that answered some of the questions that you guys had, and I'm glad to answer any other questions.
Amy?
Can you help clarify, or maybe the questions from Mike as well, still about placing a condition on approval for single family, or the zoning R8 SF, or then you were saying now the building envelopes. Can you walk us through the differences?
Mike might have to speak to the R8 SF. As we moved through that process, we determined that placing the restriction on the plat and actually talking with Mike and Hillary, that satisfied their requirement that we could keep it single family. Putting the building envelopes in there was another way to just manage kind of the scale of home that goes in there. I think that's one of the other things that has been a concern. I know that's been one of the other issues for the Fort Brown neighborhood is the scale of the homes that are being built in here. And we purposely made them a little bit smaller in some of those areas. So as far as we know, the restrictions that will be put on the plat are equivalent to, but Mike may need to address that further.
Mike, come on up.
Yeah, as far as the R8 special use part of it, this, by having the recorded on the plat, it just saves them a step of going through another public hearing to get the special use designation. So both of them will accomplish the same thing.
Okay, thank you.
So Mike, just to follow up on Amy's question, the building envelope, where will that be seen? So you're saying that the single family will be recorded, but how will people know when they buy that lot what they can build there?
Well, it'll be designated on the final plat.
So the building envelope will too?
The building envelope will also be, and plus the language for the single-family designation will be on the final plat.
Okay.
And the envelope would be right here, showing this dashed line as the only area you can build, and outside this area is not buildable.
Okay. Dan?
Yeah, so, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, well, as long as you're up here, you know some of my favorite questions regarding building envelopes and such. And if you look at the picture, you see this lovely setback from the road, which I'm assuming is about 20 feet. Will they be able to encroach upon that in any manner? Say, a front porch?
Right now, the current code allows you to come 10 feet outside the front setback for an open front porch, 1 story high.
Yeah. Okay, what's the height on the envelope?
It's 1 story if you're outside the 20 feet, but if you're past the 20 feet, it's 32 feet high. If you're inside the envelope, it's 32 feet.
Okay. There's anything about articulation in there?
There's no articulation yet. There's nothing been done with that.
No
And there's
tenting?
no tent. There's no virtual tent at this
Okay.
time.
Dan?
So it looks like the intent of this is clearly to protect what's going to go there and how big. And I've looked at a lot of plats, but that building envelope, that's somewhat unusual, isn't it? Or is that more common?
It is
these
somewhat
days?
unusual for a final plat. Usually the final plat will just have the property lines on it, the pins, and maybe the front setback. But yeah, this has a little more restrictions on it than a normal final plat.
So that says to me they're really paying attention to the intent. So
That's correct.
Woody?
So, back to the envelope, where's the garage? Is it off the back, or is it on-street parking?
This is an alley lot, so this, it'd be off the rear.
So can they put a garage outside the envelope?
My understanding is that this envelope is for the principal structure and not the detached structure such as an accessory dwelling, like a garage could be back here, is my understanding.
Okay, and the other, last question is, the alley is not pushing through to the park, off of Park?
That's correct. It comes in this way, it goes down, it just dead ends here, and it comes back. But I think there's a walkway proposed to walk to connect to the park.
Okay, thank you.
Kiki, did you have something?
Yeah, so is this piece then part of the other ordinances that affect the rest of the fort ground in their, what did you call it, Woody, their specialness?
Specialness.
This is separate from the Fort Grounds zoning.
Okay.
This would just be R8. And this is separate, this area here is separate from the zone change. Tonight, the zone change is just this part down here, these small 3 little lots down here.
Okay.
This already has the R8 zoning up here.
So this whole piece doesn't act like a separate parcel with its own CCNR type regulations, separate from the foreground,
This is just standard zoning, standard lots.
city stuff?
Yep.
Okay.
But Mike, the difference is that these lots actually have a building envelope on them, right?
That's
So
correct.
the restriction on these lots are actually more than is in the existing fort ground because of those building
That
envelopes.
sounds like they're going to wish they had that. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions for Mike before we? Okay.
But wait until you're in the back.
Couple more clarifications. The porches are included in that on the
thank
envelope,
you.
so they cannot go outside, because that was another comment that we heard. And then one other item, it may be uncommon in Coeur d'Alene to have building envelopes for plat, but it's not uncommon as a practice. A lot of times in sensitive developments in rural areas, you'll put building envelopes on to restrict where homes can be built, especially when there's McMansions involved in some of the higher-end developments. And that was the intent here. And so when this actually moves forward to the marketing phase for Ignite, there'll actually be little vignettes for each lot that a purchaser will get, and they'll look at it, and it will be clear to them, here's where you can build your house, here's what you can do, here's what you can't do. So they're made aware before they actually purchase the property.
And Phil, I'm assuming no parking in front there, Long Park, correct?
Correct, and that was one of the other things, the driveways were taken off. You might remember there were a few driveways, and now everything is alley loaded.
So no front access?
Correct.
Everything is from the alley?
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions for Phil?
Well, I just could say a comment. I'm really pleased.
Oh, good.
Thank you. I mean, I think you guys listened and put a lot of effort into making this look good. When you took out all the homes, or when Ignite took out all the homes, it was lovely. And it's good to see that you made efforts to preserve the trees, that you're going to put in a lovely sidewalk in there and make all kinds of just the efforts you took to ensure that it matched the existing neighborhood, which was one of my concerns.
Yep.
So I'm very happy.
Yep, thank you. That's nice to hear. And obviously, the Ignite, Tony Burns and the board deserve credit for that, because these were ideas that obviously went through their board, and it has some sort of economic impact to them, but they are also a long-term partner and want to be sensitive to the neighborhood. Okay,
All right, thank you.
thank you.
We will continue our public testimony. On this list, we had Cheryl and Chris Frazier. They are neutral. They don't wish to testify. And then I have Mr. Ken Murphy. He is opposed and he wishes to testify. Mr. Murphy.
Do you swear that the testimony you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I
do so swear.
So
Ken
the-
Murphy, 513 Park.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Former Mayor, council people. Ignite has 10 lots. 3 of them are on Park. I think they should remain as Park. The original purpose for which Ignite got all this land, 3 purposes, one of which was park expansion, the other was pedestrian walkway, and the third was to rebuild houses. This is Park. The comprehensive plan, I've listed for you the zoning ordinances. There's a piece of paper in there with a lot of stuff in it. 7 of the 14 objectives for zoning ordinances talk about protecting the land and listening to the citizens. In the comprehensive plan itself, 2 major of the 4 goals are environmental. 9 of 18, half of these discourage taking open park space and building on it. And I've listed them there for you. In 2006, the statistically random survey that was done asked the citizens of Coeur d'Alene what they thought. 95% like parks. They did not like they don't like the crowding that's in the parks, and they think we should have more open space. So what I would like you to do is to turn down the application because there's a great deal of the comprehensive plan, including descriptions of the historic heart areas, the education, special areas, that say, let's encourage parks. The concept that you're going to put buildings on and tell me that that encourages access is wrong. Ignite's going to get 7 out of the 10. Please take those other 3 and leave them as park. Those 7 that they're going to sell, they're going to make approximately $200,000 or more per parcel. Ignite has plenty of money. Ignite is part of the city. It's on the financial statements of the city. It's under your control. The Idaho statutes say if land is bought for urban renewal purposes and it's not used for those purposes, you guys can tell them how it should be used. And one of the caveats should be that in selling it, it should be done in the same purposes for which it was originally bought. Park, pedestrian, building. 2 of the 3 are no longer applicable. Please keep this city beautiful, turn it down, and make them go back.
All right, thank you.
A question for
Oh.
Ken?
Yes, go
That's
ahead.
permitted. Ken, you live near here.
Yes.
The area that we're talking about, the subject property, what does it look like now?
It's beautiful. It's flat. I would love that all that remained park. But right across the street, they've gone ahead and they put in the water meters for all 10, so they're really prepared to do what they're going to do. They've parceled out the 7, so they're ready to go on those. The other 3, they haven't really torn up the grass or anything yet, because I think they're waiting for you guys to make your decision. Last time when the council made the decision, boom, they were in there with the parking meters the next day. That water meters the next day.
Okay. Well, I just want to make sure they weren't anticipating that this was going to happen before it got voted on.
If you go and come into that traffic circle everybody complains about, and you look at the natural vista, it would be gorgeous if you left it. I'm really pleased that they are taking steps to preserve the trees and to make it nice. And the setbacks are very good. But 7 out of 10, come on. Leadership, that's what you were elected for. Congratulations on being reelected.
Mr. Murphy?
Yes,
so-
sir.
So I'm trying to follow, you're saying that the land that we are putting houses on that was park, but we swapped that for more park. So we didn't lose park. How I see it is, we're trading one for the other. Park
Yeah,
for,
if you keep it as park. But
Right.
then again, when Ignite, which is an urban renewal agency, acquires something, they do it with a purpose.
Right.
One of the purposes was park expansion. Okay, boom, flip it, this is park, that's all good. The other 2 purposes are no longer applicable. So I would like you guys to hold them to the original purpose, and I've given you the quotes, you can go back to the website, the documents are there that says this is why they bought these things. And Ignite is not separate, it's part of you guys, it's
Right.
part of the city.
okay. So you disagree that park is park or dirt is park? We traded some dirt for
If you leave it as park, yes or
park.
no, I totally agree that that
You
should
still
stay
have
as
the
park.
same amount of park that we did before they traded this.
Yeah,
You see that?
no, you're saying total.
Right,
Yeah, no, I understand that,
okay.
but it was bought for park expansion, and I would like it to be park expansion.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Yeah.
And the one other thing, when you ask for public comments, you street guys do a fabulous job on getting those leaves up.
The leaf guys.
All right. Is there anyone else that is not on the list that would wish to have public comment? If there is not, then I will close the public comment portion of that and look for council action.
I have a question for you, Mr. Mayor, as an Ignite member. Maybe Dan, I don't know if you've been around long enough to answer this, but the goal for Ignite is to generate some revenue from this through the sale of the lots. And so if we listen to Mr. Murphy, if we want to do what he does and add even more park space, we would lose the sale of 3 lots, if I got that right. And so this would impact what Ignite wants to do with, as far as generating revenue. And what are your comments on that? Would that be a real big negative?
Yeah, it would be. I mean, it would probably amount to about $500,000. And as you all know, the parking garage price came in at $7.3 million. The Urban Renewal Agency is raising funds to be able to pay for the parking garage. So that's one of the reasons why those lots are being sold. I think that there's a different idea on why that ground was initially purchased. Because if you do notice, if you bring back up that zoning, you will see some of that zoning is actually C-17 on there. So there was a variety of reasons why that was purchased. Park, expansion of the park could have been one of them. It could have been commercial development was another possibility, residential. So there was a lot of things that were on the table at the time that was purchased. I don't know that there was any one single idea of what that ground was going to be used for.
Thank you.
At the time it was purchased. Dan?
Well, and I would just add, I am also a new member on the Ignite board, so I'm coming to this quite late in the process, but just to acknowledge that I have been impressed in my couple of meetings, and as we work through this, that there's a lot of, there's been a lot of concern about what can go on there and making sure that they're single-family lots, and I had asked the same question, well, gee, if somebody wanted to put 2 together, could they put a bigger house? And no, the restrictions won't allow that, and, and it is unusual to have that extra layer of the, what's on the plat. I certainly, as a guy born and raised here, lived my life, I mean, I'm concerned for the balance with the park, but I'm also, when I look at that whole Four Corners project of what's happened and what's still coming online, in my mind, man, we are way ahead of where we were, and I do think that, for the Ignite, with that responsibility, we also have to try to get what we can out of the investment, because it's going to get reinvested back into public projects that do some good. So there's always a certain amount of balancing, but I'm comfortable with this.
Kiki?
I just had 2 things. One is, it occurred to me that the restrictions that Ignite has gone forward with on this particular parcel may have already kind of decreased the value of them to some degree in some people's minds. So I think they've gone a long way to protect the citizens and the neighbors in that area, and still needing to recoup their investment. And with what Mr. Murphy said, made a lot of sense. If not for the swap, we aren't giving up any more land. So if not for the swap, it made sense. But with swapping that, it sure makes sense to me that it's going to work out for the neighborhood, the citizens, Ignite, and the city. So.
And I believe that there's actually going to be a net increase in parkland due to the BLM property.
Yeah.
So there's going to be quite a bit more parkland than there was before with the skate park, right, Wood?
Maybe.
Yeah. Dan?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to move that we approve the ZC 317 zone change from R3 residential 3 units an acre to City R8 residential 8 units an acre zoning district, south of vacated Garden Avenue East, Park Avenue, make the necessary findings and orders, and include the condition that the final plat will include a designation as single-family detached housing only.
Do you need to direct staff to make the findings? Or
Yes,
you
I
can-
believe I did.
Okay.
Yeah. Dan, did you want to include the envelope in that motion as
Is
well?
the envelope necessary to include in the motion as well?
Mike, with that? Okay.
Well, it's already on the proposed final plat, so I think if you approve that as proposed, it would include the building envelope.
As said.
Okay.
Second.
So a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I just wanted to address Mr. Murphy, who, I like Mr. Murphy. I think he's a really cool guy. But, you know, and I was with you. I was going to vote no on this, but Woody and then Kiki pointed out the land swap, which is like, yeah, we aren't really losing any park space here because they did swap the land with what was formerly there. So we are getting effectively a better, larger park in the end. But I got to tell you, it's going to be really hard because it was gorgeous with all those houses gone. That was the worst thing, Phil, that was the worst thing you could have done, was take out those houses and let us see how beautiful it was in there. Because it really was tempting to say, God, this could all be just a park. But I understand, and that's why I asked the mayor, that there's a financial obligation. I know, LCDC is just raking in the cash. But as they're winding down, they're also spending, they're going through a lot of it. And this parking garage that we're all in favor of, the cost of that came in high, like the cost of almost everything comes in high now. So I would like to see the parking garage get done. I know there's other projects that they're trying to wrap up and put a ribbon on, and they need cash for that, and the cash has to come from the sale of these lots. I think originally they had 8 or 9, I forget. It wasn't this many, but when they're done, I mean, I can't object to the care and the detail they took in platting these things out, the rear access, I mean, everything. There's no complaints there at all. So I have to support this. But again, it would have been beautiful to have that just empty. So I understand completely where you're coming from.
Any further discussion? If not, roll call, please, Renata.
McEvers?
Yes.
Gookin?
Yes.
Evans?
Yes.
English?
Yes.
Eddinger?
Yep.
Miller?
Yes.
Motion carried. We will now move on to a legislative hearing. This is a legislative hearing, it's A3-17. The applicant is the estate of Marvin Paul Keogh. The location is 7845 North Ramsey Road. Requested proposed 4.6 acre annexation from county agricultural to city C17. And we have the staff report from Sean.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. Give me just a second here to get set up. One is mine here. There we are. All right, as the mayor stated, the applicant is the estate of Marvin Paul Keogh. The consultant is Lake City Engineering. We did get an email from Drew, who said that he would have another representative here tonight to be able to speak to this subject this evening, and they are available after I get done with my staff report. Subject is request for zoning in conjunction with annexation. I think there was a question before about how that worked, and did you guys get the answer to that? How the zoning works with the annexation versus planning commission and council? Okay, we're all square. Okay, so the location is the south side of Prairie Avenue on the west side of Ramsey Road. The applicant is requesting annexation of a little more than 4.5 acres and with a C17 zoning designation. So currently there's a single family residence on the property. There's associated accessory structures like garages that are on the property and a cell phone tower that was built in the county. The remainder is vacant. So here is a vicinity map. This is the subject property right here, Prairie Avenue to the north and Ramsey Road running north-south and city limits in green. The annexation map that was provided by the applicant and a description of what the C17 zone that is requested does and will allow. There is further information in your staff report. This is the land use map from Kootenai County showing the subject property. Kind of took a little area right here and blew it up. Here is the green area. It's currently agriculture in the county, and to the south is county commercial. Required findings for an annexation are as follows. that this proposal is or is not in conformance with the comprehensive plan policies. The 2007 comprehensive plan category is Ramsey Woodland, and the subject property is contiguous with city limits. This is the definition of transition. As you can see here in green, this is the transition area, and this is the subject property, Ramsey Woodland in black with city limits in red. The description of Ramsey Woodland today, rather than read this verbatim, I think everybody at home can read. So it's just important to note that, let's see, neighborhood service nodes can be found in the area. Passive and active parks are available. And then this is tomorrow, another description of what it will be like. The northern boundary, which this falls on, is at the edge of the community and offers opportunities for infill. The characteristics of Ramsey Woodland neighborhoods, 3 to 4 units per acre. However, pockets of higher density housing and multifamily units are appropriate. Pedestrian bicycle trails, parks within a 5-minute walk, neighborhood service nodes as mentioned earlier, and multifamily and single-family housing units will be located in Ramsey Woodland. The objectives from the plan, I listed them out here. Their definitions can be found in your staff report as well. The next finding is finding B9 is that public facilities and utilities are or are not available and adequate for the proposed use. Chris Bosley, our city engineer, has stated for stormwater, it's anticipated that it will use curbside adjacent swales and all the stormwater must be contained on site. That will be reviewed at time of development. Streets, very similar as far as that Ramsey Road can handle the anticipated traffic. However, it's important to note that during portions of high traffic, it may become a little more busy to get in and out of there. So water, this one's a little bit of an odd animal, as I stated last time I went through this, is that this portion of the city falls within the Hayden Lake Irrigation District. And attached to your staff report is a conditional will serve letter. It's important to note that if any extensions of water utilities are required, that the applicant will have to, or the developer will have to pay for the extensions. Kyle Marine, Assistant Water Superintendent, stated that the water service is outside of their district. So wastewater, this was submitted by Mike Becker, the Utility Project Manager for wastewater. He stated that the city has the capacity and the willingness to serve this annexation as proposed. Fire department, this is pretty much boilerplate language for them. They will review at the time of development that the water mains and fire hydrants, the turning radiuses, will work for them to protect the area. The next finding is finding B10, that the physical characteristics of the site make or do not make it suitable for the request at this time. We'll go through some pictures here in a second, but the subject property is flat. There's an existing single-family residence on there, and let's see here. Staff has suggested the driveway and buffer yard landscaping be improved, and I'll get to that in just a moment. Here's some pictures of the site. This is a picture of the cell phone tower that exists. This is behind the cell phone tower. It's a vacant looking west. And looking north towards Prairie, there's an existing trail that runs along there. 180-degree view as the trail runs down to the high school. And finding B11 is that the proposal would or would not adversely affect the surrounding neighborhood with regard to traffic, neighborhood character, and/or existing land uses. So it's a rapidly changing area. There's been a number of annexations, a number of subdivisions and PUDs that have happened in the area. Those include Garden Grove, Vista Meadows, Kerr Properties, and Prairie Trails subdivision. And regarding traffic, I had touched on this a little bit earlier, is that they're not anticipating that Ramsey will be affected very much. That was by Chris Bosley. So moving on to the existing land uses, single family in yellow, Red is commercial, the light tan is vacant, the green is currently used as agriculture. For zoning, C17 is in red, that's what the applicant is requesting. As stated earlier in the county, this is county commercial. We have an R3 zone behind the property or due west, and to the south of that is R8. There are some R8 PUDs as well in the area. So when I was going through my staff report a little bit earlier, I was discussing what we recommend for an annexation agreement. And one of those is that the cell phone tower itself meets the city's code. Actually, when we brought this to Planning Commission, it exceeded our wireless code, but since then we've passed a new wireless code. So it does meet our wireless code, except for the access has not been paved. With that, we worked with the applicant and discussed that we would be accepting as staff that the improvement must be complete within 1 year of annexation or the time of site development for them to pave that, as well as improve the landscaping around it that buffers the control equipment that's at the base of the tower. Also, Streets and Engineering has requested 5 feet of right-of-way be dedicated to the city, and that's what other properties in the area have done, so that we have a consistent 100-foot right-of-way width for Ramsey, and that allows us also to maintain the existing shared use path. So City Council must consider this request and make appropriate findings to approve, deny, or deny without prejudice. All the legal requirements for notice have been made. And with that, that finishes my staff report, and I'll stand for questions.
Questions for Sean? Woody?
So Sean, that R3 up against this property, is that, we don't buffer commercial up against home, R3 residential is?
We do. The commercial design guidelines require a buffer, and that comes at the time of building permit. So when they come forward with their request, whatever that happens to be that works inside a C17, we'll take a look at where that runs up against any residential property, R3 in this case, and will require a 10-foot buffer.
And so the only access really for that property is Ramsey? Is that correct?
Yes, unless there's another agreement that's made with an easement or something, that is their access.
Okay. So being C17, it's obviously not going to be homes. Is that correct? Or it could be homes?
It
could be
potentially
apartments?
could be. C17 does allow for residential uses.
Okay. Just trying to look at that impact on Ramsey, even though they say Ramsey's big and fat, it's nice, but it doesn't take much to clog it up, left turns and things, but I don't see any other way it could really be as commercial, right?
That's
With the tree. Who
ultimately
wants to live
up
under
to
the tree?
council, but it does make sense because of the nature of the area. To the north is commercial, to the south is county commercial, and on the other side of Ramsey is commercial.
And I don't think I'd want to live under that tree. And that's not going anywhere, right?
That's going to stay.
Thank you.
Other questions for Sean? Sean, did you say that the applicant is here, a representative from the applicant is here tonight?
They are.
Okay, all right.
Get this up for you. Oh, wrong one. Let me just close the one. All right, you can just click through.
So we'll-
Good evening, Mayor, council members.
Hi, do you swear that the testimony you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
My name is Steve White. I'm representing the applicant tonight. Kind of got thrown under the bus at the last minute, so don't ask too many pointed questions on this because I may not be able to answer them. The staff report on this is excellent. We agree with everything. The 3 conditions that they wish to impose are fine as far as the paving, the extra 5 feet, cleaning up the landscaping around that within 1 year. We have no issues with that. We do believe that this application meets the 4 findings, the criteria that can all be answered positively on that, and I'll hit those on the slides real quick. Generally looking at the location, as you saw from the staff report, it is surrounded by commercial uses and commercial properties here. This is commercial in the county, heavy equipment, storage, and maintenance they do in the site to the south, so I think our impacts here are fairly low. The R3 piece in the back is currently kind of undeveloped as it sits. Just another look at what the existing zoning is surrounding this uses. So the 4 findings, we feel that the B8 is in conformance, and B9, all the utilities, as per the staff report, are available. The site is flat. It does have a very attractive cell tower, and I think service would be good, Woody, if you did want to live underneath it. Probably still not free service, though. And we do not adversely affect the surrounding neighborhoods or the traffic characteristics. So I think it's fairly simple. I'll keep it short. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer it.
Questions? Woody?
So normally we don't ask, but I'm going to ask, so what's the plan?
No definitive plans yet. Needed to get the zoning in place to make sure before you start planning on a piece this size.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Thank you. We will open the public testimony portion of this. I have two names on the list. They wish to testify. So Michael and Shirley Cobalt? Cobalt. They are neutral and they wish to testify.
Michael, it's so hard of hearing.
I'm sorry, I cannot hear.
Okay, so Renata will swear you in.
Do you swear that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
What's that?
Do you swear that the testimony you are about to give will be the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
The only reason I'm here at the meeting is because I would like your support if the annexation is approved and the planning for it is approved, that I would like, west of my property is just west of the other property that you're talking about now. And I landlocked. I cannot get a sewer through there. I'm on septic tank and I like to be on the city sewer. So I'd have to come through it, and I'm sorry that I can't run this thing. I'm too old to learn it. But anyway, I would like to, for your help in getting the developer to bring a line, let me put my sewer line over and connect into the Ramsey sewer line. That's the reason. And if that can be help, if I can get help from you, I'd appreciate it.
Sean, would you mind coming up and just 1 minute, and I'll have Sean bring up the map, and you can show us where your residence is.
Does that help?
Okay.
You want to just point to it?
Yes.
I know.
I'm right here, right up here.
And
The yellow part.
The yellow part in this R3.
Just the last leg of it. This is my property right
Oh,
here.
okay. So your parcel is here.
All
Yes,
right.
I would like the sewer line to come across here, where Ramsey has the sewer line coming up now, and I'd like the sewer line to be some kind of a agreement that I could bring my sewer line through his property.
So legally, and I'd have to turn
Can't do
this
that.
over
Yeah.
to Mike to ultimately
Yeah,
make.
it's probably not part of this decision. It would be something that, it would be a property owner negotiation. Mike, maybe you could expound on that a little bit.
Yeah, and I don't know, wastewater does have some policies about kind of to and through, but if they're connecting at Ramsey, I don't think there's any obligation that we can put on the property owner to bring it through to another person's property.
Is there sewer, Sean, on Prairie?
Not ours.
You know, that is the edge of city limits. I am not sure whether or not there is sewer. There's nobody from wastewater that I can call on. And we do not have access to the map here that I do at my desk because of, it's public. And so we can't give away that information.
Jim?
I'm pretty sure there is no Coeur d'Alene sewer on Prairie. Most of the areas that are being served by that back road. Is it?
Alps.
It comes through on that street to serve several subdivisions that have been developed on the south side of Prairie, but it doesn't go out to Prairie.
So Sean, that western piece on the corner of Prairie and Ramsey, the commercial piece in red right there, yes, that one, that's City of Coeur d'Alene?
It is.
And that's served, or is that currently developed?
Property.
Right. Once again, wastewater isn't here to discuss that. That was annexed in. There is a coffee stand there right now, and they're required to be connected unless they are on septic, and that's approved by Panhandle Health. I believe that the sewer line does run up Ramsey, but I'm not sure how far, if it makes it all the way to Prairie or not.
So again, I don't think, Mike, that's probably outside of what we're deciding here tonight, but Jim, maybe if you could get a contact number and maybe facilitate some discussions so we can see what the city can do.
We need your contact information so that we can discuss this with you, because we can't require that the applicant provide you access to sewer at this time. You know, when they develop, it's a negotiation between two private property owners.
I get no help from the city or for the council. They cannot help me in any way then?
Not at this time, no.
Okay.
I think Jim is back there, he's going to get your information.
But we're going to put you in contact with our sewer department, and they will contact you and discuss what options that you have.
Yes. Then can I come back to the city council with that?
Well, that's going to be between two private property owners to discuss if you would provide, if the owner of this property
They will not make any policy changes that they do have to, that the sewer has to be run across there for the help pick up.
Correct,
Not tonight, can't do anything
this
tonight
action.
with this.
What's that?
Not with this action, not with an annexation.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any other public testimony? I just had that one name on the list. Anyone else wishing to give public testimony? Council have any other questions for Sean?
No.
I think we're good, Sean.
Thank
Thank you. So we'll close the public testimony portion of that and look for council action.
I'll make a motion to approve A3-17, proposed 4.6 acre annexation from county agricultural to city C-17, located at 7845 North Ramsey Road by the estate of Marvin Paul Keough, and to direct staff to negotiate an annexation agreement and to develop the necessary findings in order.
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion. Seeing no discussion, we'll ask for a roll call, please, Renata.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch if the conditions were included in that.
Oh, thank you. Yes. We have the conditions on record, so I can say to include there are 3 conditions. Is that 3 recommendations? 4? I have
Conditions
the
as
3,
presented.
the 2 from planning and 1 from streets and engineering.
Yes.
Okay. And Ron, you're good with
Yeah.
that? Okay. So roll call, please.
Gookin,
Aye.
Evans,
Yes.
English,
Yes?
Eddinger,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
McEvers.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Move to recess till Thursday, November 30th at noon in the library community room for a workshop with Ignite CDA.
Second?
Motion and a second to recess. All those in favor?
Aye.
We are recessed until the 30th of November. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone.
Yes.
We are recessed.